Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. On this one, I got a rear panel, taillight panel off a 70 Challenger. It had its fair share of rust. It's an original panel. There was a bunch of spot weld holes that were drilled out, and a lot of them were mangled. I'm going to show you how to handle that stuff, plus do some rust repair, and a bunch of other things too, I think. Stick around. So here we are. This is going to be our project today on this one. What we have here looks to be like the rear tail panel off like a 70s Challenger, 71, somewhere around there. I'm not 100% sure. But every now and again you take panels and you got to remove them to get other panels off. And you end up having holes over here like this here going along here. And you have this type of thing going on. And these holes, these were all drilled out in order to break the panel clear. Now down across here, everything looks pretty good, but we do have some rust here to deal with. And we have a pile of rust here to deal with, so we got to make up this section over here. But the plan is for this one here, I was told that the owner is going to be putting this in with glue. He's going to be gluing the panel in, so he's not going to be spot welding all these in here. But I'm going to go over a couple of things here. I'm going to weld all these up, of course. But I'm going to go over a couple of things and show if I was to actually plug weld these in, what I do, okay? So, like a lot of times you'll have panels like this here and you're trying to save them, so you drill them all out, you take the panel off, you do the repairs behind it, then you go to weld it back in. Right off the bat, you just take it, you weld it back in, and you start welding up these holes again. No. You be very careful with this here. These ones here are the dirty ones, okay? That there will make a mess, okay? These down here will make a mess. That one there will make a mess. Okay. When you're coming across, there's another one there. These are the ones here that you don't need to be welding these up. I'm going to weld these up, and I'm going to if I was going to redo it, I'd re-drill a new hole up here higher into the panel for the spot weld to go in place. You would think you just turn around and weld this up, but what's going to end up happening is you're going to have the panel in the back of the car, and you're going to see where it's welded in. You'd be running like beads across the bottom of it, because you're going to be welding this section up right here, and you're going to be welding down here as well. And it's not going to look nice when it's all done. It'd be nice to be able to put it in and clean it all up, and when you stand back and look at it, it doesn't look like it's welded in. And then all you got to do is just seam seal your lines, okay? So I'm going to get started with this now and start welding up a few of these holes. I'm going to dolly them up first. And I'm going to take one side, not going to think about none of this big heavy repair yet. And I'm going to get everything else done. I got to do some spots up here that got to be welded up. There's another issue there. You can see right there. That would be a big mess. And you would see this section up here, okay? These ones here, be the ones that I would actually weld up. These are fine. These ones here, I'd drill them out and weld them up. But these ones down here, I wouldn't go welding them on. I'd fix them first. So let's get this thing started here now. Ouch. Sad day here in Fitzy's Fabrications. I must have that hammer 20 years. And she snapped off on me the other day. I'm going to have to fix that hammer, but I haven't got time to do it today. Go to my backup. So I went ahead and dollied everything up, and then I turned around and I grinded both sides of it and removed anything from the back side in the ways of an undercoating or seam sealer like that. Now over here, I see it better on the other side there. Now I have to grind it off. I took note of where the seam sealer was to. As you can see, the factory seam sealer is going along here. So it was only welded on the very bottom edge, okay? It wasn't welded up here. So take note of that there when you're doing these type of things, because if you put the spot weld up here too high, if he has to re-drill a hole, you're going to be too high. But you can see it's all right along the edge. So you would have to have your spot welds very close to the edge down here. But I got it all cleaned up as well on the inside here. So now I'm ready to start welding all this up. So I had this piece of brass here. You can use this here. You've seen me use this before. But the real thing for doing the repairs on this here are these here. These are like a pair of vice grips. And all they are is they got a piece of brass or copper, pretty sure it's brass, on the top side of it there, that you can actually just clamp on it on the spot weld and actually weld to it right there. Simple as that, right? Because the nice thing about this now is the back side here, which is going to be laying up against something, is going to be nice and flat. And all I got to do is make this look good out here, and the inside should be fine. I'll just clean it up a bit. But this one here, like I've took note of where they were drilling them to. They were drilling from this side here. So I know for a fact this here is laying against the panel. So the panel is like this and not like this, okay? So I'm taking note of that there. So when I go to weld it, I want this side here to look the nicest, okay? So I'm going to go ahead now, get the welder over, start welding this stuff up. See, in the case of these here now, if you were to turn around and leave this panel like it is and to drill out these here and then put it on the car, fit it on the car and then start welding this up, you're going to have a mess right here. You're going to be welding into the panel. This nice crisp seam will disappear because you will have weld out here. I'm going to weld this up here now. And this is one of the advantages of having these pliers, is that I will weld that up so I can put a nice edge back on that again. And this is what you're left with. You can see the way I built out the welding all the way out on the edge, so now I can trim that off to make it look right nice, and I'll dress all that up, all down along there. Done a few more up there. Same thing, I always weld off the edge of it, so then I got some nice thick metal there and that I can grind off. The back side, you can see what it looks like on the back side. There's a bit of material there, I'll grind that flat. I won't take nothing off it too much though, but I'll just grind all that flat and dress it all up. So I'm going to go ahead now and dress this up and show you what it looks like. And there it is. Got it all grinded up. See, nice crisp edge going down along here now. No holes. That's all ready to do there now to set up. You see it on the inside here. I just give it a quick clean up so it's nice and flat. So when he goes to glue it on, it'll be all fine, right? I'm going to go ahead now and get a bunch more of this welded up. If it comes to anything interesting, I'll bring you back. So I got everything all welded up on the sides, all on the bottom where it was solid. Over here on the side where it was all gone, and then I turn around and I got the tops welded up here on both sides. Now I'm left with, I have a major bit of rust in here, and I have a major bit of rust in here. Now, I did redo some repairs in here. I didn't want to tamper into that because this here has a drop down and I want to keep all this section here for now. I got to replace a section here and replace a section here, which is a bit tricky because of this corner here. I also got to replace the lips on these as well. There's a lip on the sides, lip on the back, and lip on the other side. Now these lips are only as that wide, but I'm going to weld a big piece on it get it all trimmed up, and then I'll just cut it off, make it look right nice and tidy, because that's the way that usually was put on. I might leave it long for him. If he's going gluing it on, he'll want room for it to glue. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to find a piece there, and I'm pretty sure I got some angle there, steel is already there that I can use, and just replace that there with it. Not going to worry about the length this way here. I'm just going to worry about this height right here and make sure that it stays straight going along here. I'm going to weld it right in the seam here, and then I'm going to back weld it on the back side to give it strength, because you're not going to see it. And I'll dress this out here, and then I'll weld it down through here, and I'll weld it down through here, and then I'll replace that, and then I'll just cut it off. About 8 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches. So 3 by 8. Cut that out. All it is, I put a bit of marker on it, just so I can see it, and then I scribed it. And I scribed it. And all I scribed it with was an old screwdriver that I sharpened. That's all I ever uses. And now I'm going to cut that out and cut that right across there. And I'm not going to worry about that end back there. I'm going to get this to fit in place and get this to go up here nice. And go up here nice. I might leave the bit of overhang on the top side here, so I can actually put a few tacks on it to get it weld nice. And then I'll grind it flat here and weld it up here and weld it on the inside. But I want to have a perfect fit here. A perfect fit here is why I scribed it like I did. So I'll go ahead now, get that cut out. So what I did here is I got this cut on the line here, cut on the line here. But when I cut this up here, I cut it back far enough that it's the thickness of the metal right here. Okay, the thickness there. So when I lay this in place here now, this will butt up against this right nice like so. And I'll go ahead and I'll tack weld this on here, tack weld this on here, and then I'll tack weld it on the back side here. I can grind this off after the fact, and I'll weld it all up, and I can grind it down flat with a nice round edge on this top edge. So I'll go ahead and I'll get that welded in place. So here's where I'm to. I got this clamped in place, and I got this inside edge lined up, and this edge, the inside edge lined up here, and that's where I'm going to weld it first. This is too long. This is too long. I'm not worried about that there. It's all stuck up there. I'm going to leave that just like it is. I'll grind that flat. I'm going to turn around and get these welded here in place first. And then I'm going to turn around and start welding up these sections here and have them done. And then I'm going to put a few tacks on this here and go in on the back side and run a bead across it. And then I can come out here and grind this flat, weld it across here, and I can round this off and make this look like a factory type seam. there you have the complete replacement and repair of that section right there. Let's see, for that matter, trying to figure out where I welded it. I'm some good, and I can't even figure out where I did it. But you can see what I done up here. I left it long, and then I welded the inside. The problem you got is when you trims this off and cuts this off, you're left with a big gap there, and you got nothing to weld to. At least now, when I was welding from the back side, there was an edge there for it to actually bring up in when I went to go welding it from the inside. So once that was welded, I just grinded off flush here, and I ran a bead of weld across that again, and then I grinded that off flat here, grinded off flat here, and then I turned around and round out the edge. You saw me using the cutting wheel on the inside edges right here. I just use it as very slight touch. I don't dig it in or nothing like that. I just like it for inside corners, just cutting inside corners out. And so that's it. And then I just took a straight edge, laid it across there, clamped it on, and ran the grinder across it, chopped it off. There you got the piece made and reinstalled. Now I got to go ahead and do it all over again over here, but I got a bit of a trick here on this corner. I'm going to go ahead now and get the piece made that goes in here. I'm going to go to about here somewhere, and then the thing I'm going to stop. I'm not quite sure yet, because here's the problem I got over here. On this side here, you can see it comes across, steps up, and then goes flat to here. Okay, I have none of this, none of that corner there at all, so I got to duplicate this corner. So I might just come to here with this edge here and then make this section here separate. I can try to do it all in one piece, but to me, I'm just making more work, because then you're trying to make this all work and bend and right, and you're trying to get this all fit right nice and everything. So let's concentrate and get this section done, and then we'll work on that. All I'm going to do is the same process is what I done over there. So I'll hurry up and I'll get this done. Sometimes the pieces are ready made. Look at this piece. I turned around, I needed something that was 3 inches by about 21 inches. Can't ask for no better than that. Got that out. So I got it all bent up. You can see how I measured it. Like, I turned around, I just went over and I laid it up against the other side over here that's already repaired, and laid it up and marked it. And then I went over and I just guesstimated at the bend to make sure that I had enough material there. Over here now, all I'm going to do is just trim this up along here. Okay, come over here and find a spot where I'm happy with it, and lay that there and cut it off. And that way I'll have a spot here I can butt along here, and I'll tack weld it along the inside edge here. And I will use, I got this clamped in place here now. It is a bit long, but you can see this distance here. I'm going to use that as my reference line to line it up over here so that it's not too high and it's not too low. Like if I comes over and it's down like that, I know I'm too low. I can use this little bit of lip that I got here, and I can eyeball that right along there to make sure all that's nice and straight. So I can bring that up to the height that it needs to be, and then I can actually tack weld it on and weld the back side. Then I come up here and grind the top, and then I can weld the top side here. As you can see, I got it left a bit long. I'm going to turn around and come over here, and I'm going to put one of the bends in it. But I'm not worried about that right yet. Just worry about getting a piece in there that's nice and long. If I got to weld more pieces onto it, that's fine. You're going to overthink it. Come over here, I'm going to put the bend here, and put the bend here, and have the angle on it here. It really gets complicated, okay? Let's simplify this and just put one piece in, and then we'll worry about this area over here then. So I'm going to go ahead now, trim off everything on the back side of this here, mark that, and get that there ready so I can get that welded in. I got it all trimmed off, took the piece out of there, got out of there. I got this unit here, I'm going to have to put that back on the back side later, but I got this cleaned off here, a nice straight edge here now. I'm going to go ahead now, clamp it on here, line it up, weld it along here, and make sure this is nice and even, and get that welded on. So I got a tack welded on there. And then I went across here and I started over here, and you can see the height that I got. And I made sure that height stayed the same all the way across. Okay? And then I tack welded it on. Now I'll flip it over and I'll weld up all the inside. As you can see, I left the outside lip a little bit long. It makes life a lot easier to weld this up in here, okay? Because I haven't got just a gap there. I got something to weld to. So I'm welding to that edge there. It doesn't matter if it's a bit high on the outside, because I got this panel here to level it all out later on. So all I'm doing here now is just going in and welding an inch, skip an inch, weld an inch, skip an inch. It's a pretty tight panel, so it should be fine. I'll let that cool off there now and go back and finish welding up. All I did here now is I grinded it all flat, and I'll go back down, I'll weld all this up again, and then I can turn around, go back and dress this edge, then have a nice crisp edge along there. So I got that all installed, and I got everything ground off and dressed. Nice crisp round old edge along there. It's all welded on the back side. It's all welded on the back side here. I'm not worried about nothing else. This can be trimmed off after the fact. The next thing I'll be concerned about now is setting up this corner down here. I got some bends and everything that comes up along here. We'll take a look at the other side and size up how we're going to go about making this end look like the other side. So it comes across and then it bends up and it goes parallel to this edge here, and the bend is almost lined up with that there. So what I went and did, I took this hole here, which is one of the mounting holes for the taillights, and I measured over from it to the actual bend. I went from the edge of the hole over to the bend, and I marked that there. So I'm going to come over here now and go from the edge of the hole here, move down to here in my own light. From the edge of the hole here, come down here, line it all up, and I'll mark that here, and I'll put a bend down. I'll put a bend right down through here. So I'll get that marked there now. Here, playing around with it here now, I got an issue with trying to get this corner here to look the same as the other side, because over here, the distance from this cornered edge of the light down to here, and that distance from the corner of the light is to here. So, and then this here it's gone straight on me. I need to angle this, needs to cut this off here and angle this back. And then when I take my measurements from, even I took long measurements from here. Say if I took this measurement from here to this bend, and then do the same thing to this side here, this is where the bend has got to be. So I'm sitting here now figuring I'm going to have to cut this section up here and reshape this corner again to fit the other side, because all this was gone over here and it was all mangled, and I just made it all flat. So I'm thinking quite possibly I could be off there. So what I got to do now is I got to come in here and I got to split this down through here. I'm not going to split it here because it'll leave a big gap. But if I split it here, I can actually roll this up and actually use it to fill it in. So I know my bend has got to be here. So I'm just going to go ahead now, cut this down through here. And then I can bend this and I can figure out cutting this section here out of my way just so I can actually get this here to fit in there properly. So I'm here, been playing around with it. I've been taking a whole bunch of measurements from different points and angles and everything, trying to get this here to look like the other side over here. I had to rework the corners and that on the other side. There's a small bit of a rise right here that rotates around, and there's a sharp there, and you can look in through there. It comes up on an angle like so. And all I've been doing is just trying to get that piece of metal over there to be shaped like this here. And on this angle here, flat here, this edge here, a certain distance away from that hole, and this here going flush with the other piece, right? This is what I've been up against here. So I got the distances here, I got this flush down across here, the angles here. I got to start welding this up here now. But I think I'm pretty pleased with that there now. When you're looking across it, it's a bit of a bump there. This corner here was all gone, and it was all flattened out. And I went and flattened it out even more to weld this piece here on here. So I got to rework this corner here a bit to make this side look the same as the other. So I'll continue on, bring you back. Hope you guys are sitting down. Yeah, it's come to that. I had to make a template. Sad. Now I'm over here, and again, it's like a lot going on. I'm not overthinking it. All I'm trying to do is I'm going to get this angle first, okay? And the distance I got from this bend here up to here, and from this bend here to here, just what I'm doing. What I'm going to do here, and I'm going to go ahead and weld up this section here so it's done. Get this welded up, because I'm going to have to cut a section of this out because it's really thin here. But I'm going to get this angle first locked in. I'll get this welded up and get this all ground dressed, and we leave it there. Then we'll stop from there, and then we'll move on to the next section. Instead of trying to do all this at once, I'll get that welded up and grind it up. No, Tony, not coat hangers. It's not a coat hanger, it's a gap-be-gone unit. I'm going to weld that in there now and get that all ground up. Got it all welded up, just a simple little filler rod, coat hanger, one is kind. A lot of people don't like, people using coat hangers. They figure it's sacrilegious, but do you know that fellas like Gene Winfield and all them crowd, that's what they used? They used stuff like coat hangers, they used what they had around. Modern technology today wasn't around in the 50s. Fellas used what they had around, so that's just an old technique that's been used by old bodymen, old customizers from way back in the day. So I got that there welded up. I'm going to grind and dress and finish that off there now before it goes on to do anything else, because I want to have that inside corner edge as a measurement. I got that all done. I'm happy with that. Now I can go up here. I got to trim some of this back because it's pretty thin in here. Then I got to start working on making this piece up here. This here got a gradual, it comes up and it slowly tips down into this panel here a small bit, and then this here just goes flat down across this here. It kind of turns out, I think, or goes straight. I'm not worried about none of this right now. I'm just going to worry about getting the transition from here. So I'll cut a piece out of this now, I'll start fitting up. I'm going to make a strip of metal in there, then I'm going to put a bit of a curvature on to try to make it fit right. I might end up doing it 2 sections, this piece here and then this piece here. Don't that look just lovely? It's not about perfection right now. You just want to get the shape in there and get it all welded in there. But it's close to where it's supposed to be. Don't mind the welding, okay? Don't worry about this piece here right now. I'm going to go on and dress that and get that to where I'm happy with it. Oh, she's rugged looking there now. Well, would you look at that? What would you call that writing home to mother? It's all welded up. I got that inside crease there. I got the angle here. I got the angle here, the distance here. I got the little relief going back up into this here. This cornered edge is the same distance from here. Okay, lots of material here, lots of material here. What I got to do now is I'm going to mark it out. I'm going to make it look like this side over here. You can see this side over here comes over and then it tapers down, then it starts to fade out, then it tapers up again off the edge here. So if you look straight down here, this is cut on an angle here to about right here, this point here, and then this angle here starts here and it ends right here where that bolt, where that hole is to. So I'll go over now, and first thing I'm going to mark it off this width here, because the distance here and the distance here is the same right along, and then I'll work on marking in these little sections here, and I'm going to just chop it all off. Now, doesn't that look a lot better? Never be concerned about having stuff too big. Got lots there to cut off it. Now I got a nice uniform edge going down through here and all through here. It's made out of multiple pieces, but it looks the part, okay? See the back side of it here? I got the little relief edge put in it here, tapers out, and it steps off here, and it goes straight across the back side of it. So that's that all looked after. Across there. I got one more thing to do on this now. Is I got to put tabs on this here. 3 tabs. I'm not going to get carried away with that. I'm going to leave them a bit long for him because he might want to just glue this down. And these are only supposed to be those small, little short edges. So if he wants to cut it off, he can. But I'll leave it. I'll give him the option that he can do that. So I'll get some pieces made up now and get them welded on. You can see here the way it's shaped. It's just a little lip that was on it and this is welded on. I'm just going to cut that off there now, grind it down flat, and I got a piece of tin here. I'm just going to put it on there, weld it on, and then I'll trim it up. Simple as that. I'll do the same thing here on the sides. Put it on, trim it up. That'll be the extent of that. Something quick and easy. So there you have it. 3 little tabs welded on, dressed up. Lots of room there now if he wants to glue them on. If he wants to weld them on, he can probably drill them out and put spot welds in them. But there's lots of room there. Now I got 2 more things I got to do, so let's get them installed. Cutting the rust off. These pieces here, these are used wire looms. They're the original ones, so I'm going to clean them up there now, drill out, spot weld in them, and get them welded back on the panel. Two of them are reinstalled, welded back in place where they were. There's 2 there, and there was 2 here. So now she's all back original again. And that's pretty well it for that one. There's a lot involved in this here. You will find that trying to save a panel sometimes, when you start drilling it out, you'll end up making a mess of it. I'd actually go to the point of doing what I got done here, to start from here, to put it back in again. Now, if you want to turn around and re-drill this out, and weld this in with plug welds, fine, right? If I was to do it now, like some of them holes that were really good holes, I would have left them there if I was going to weld them back on. And then I only fixed the ones that I found were close to the edges. Of course, then you had to deal with this rust that was down here as well. And it's a lot easier to repair that here off the car than it is to repair it on the car. Because it's always nice to have a nice spot seam there you can actually weld back onto. So, but that's it for that. Got all the repairs done on that. Apparently these panels here, I think they're around, they're bought a replacement. This is an original Dodge piece, so it's worth a lot more to Mopar guys if it's you repair the original panel. than it is to replace it. But yeah, I figured a panel like this here, to buy the replacement for it, I'd say here in Newfoundland is about $1,000 plus shipping. So, you know, it's not cheap. By no means. I think I saw them online, like they were almost $800 US. So by the time he converts it over to Canadian dollars, then you put shipping on top of it. You know, what is this here? I got, I probably got 6 to 8 hours or something into this now I got. So, you know, and you're repairing your own panels. Everything's perfect that way, right? So, but that's it for that. That's another one for you guys. A few little tips and tricks and amongst all that there. Repairing the old spot weld holes and when you remove panels off cars. So, anyway, I hope the tips are good. And until next time.